offensive lineman for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But no one is open downfield. Bell has to hang on to the football, and Joe Fleming finally gets there.
As you look at Eric Blunt standing back to get this punt from Noel Prefontaine. Oh, beautiful punt. It looks like a pass. Nice spiral that chases Blunt down inside the 35. Nice block by Brandon Hamilton to spring Blunt. Gets up near midfield. Bombers in business again. And there is a flag down in the play, although it is closer to where the Argos were scrimmaging before than the site of where the punt was taken on the return.
Nick Ferguson and Byron Capers were fighting behind the play the whole time Eric Blunt was returning that kick. Nick Ferguson was in charge of blocking Byron Capers, and they were in a fist fight behind the line.
Toronto, number 16, unnecessary roughness, first down Winnipeg.
Byron Capers is going to get the call because he retaliated. What happened was Nick Ferguson was all over Capers. He wasn't allowed off the line of scrimmage, had him pinned. When he got up and started running, Capers got up from behind him and started swinging. That's why he got the retaliation, and Gary Hoffman's troops get the yardage.
So it's down to the 42. First and 10 Blue Bombers. Already up 29-5. Looking for more. That one is overthrown by Jay Walker. Intended for Spencer McLennan. Now the game story, and mostly Winnipeg tonight, it's brought to you by the Keg Steakhouse and Bar. Great steaks, good times. See you tonight. And tonight it was Kerwin Bell.
You know, he looked down that list. Jay Walker, of course, with the big night like you mentioned, Ron, but Daryl Mitchell, we have to give credit where credit is due, and Daryl Mitchell needs 24 to get 2,000. Reggie Carthon has done a real nice job in coverage on Daryl Mitchell all night.
Off the draw. Eric Blunt with the football. They can afford to keep it on the ground and just let the clock tick down. It's under 10 minutes, down to about 9:03 to go. So Troy Westwood will come out and try another field goal and try to put Winnipeg into the 30s.
We heard Eric Tillman talking about the report out of Montreal that Dave Ritchie and he will be here. Gary Hoffman probably put his name in the hat. I know he knows Eric Tillman as well. And it'll be interesting to see how it develops here in the offseason.
They'd like what they'd see tonight. Winnipeg had scored on 4 straight drives. This one going wide to the right by Westwood. And the return by Adrian Smith with flags down on the field. A big return out across the 30 to the 33. See what happens with these flags now. Westwood made it 5 for 7 in the field goal department. Missed it badly to the right that time.
You know, when they played the Edmonton Eskimos here a couple weeks back, Troy Westwood got hit by Rob Brown, and he was out cold and out of the game. I'm surprised that he even bounced back from that hit and is playing here tonight. I have never seen
lost his helmet.
Knocked his helmet right off. He was out cold.
Holding Toronto, number 16, first down.
Byron Capers called on the penalty again. Just another play and an ugly evening for Don Matthews and the Argonauts here in the 4th quarter. Kerwin Bell is out of this football game. The backup Jay Barker is in, and a look at his numbers in 1998. Glenn, he was busy at the start of the season when Bell was injured.
He did a nice job winning some games for the Argos early in the year when Bell was hurt. And Kerwin Bell is on the sideline, but he doesn't have some good memories of this one.
And right from the first play, a little disorganization there. And it is just thrown away out of bounds on first down.
Well, I mentioned how Daryl Mitchell has really struggled to get close to his 2,000. He's had Reggie Carthon in his back pocket all game long. And, of course, Carthon almost went in the huddle with him on that last exchange. Reggie Carthon was accused of not playing because he was upset with the release of Jeff Reinbold. He had an injured back, but some said that he wasn't injured. He just didn't want to play.
He's wrapped up in the end zone. The ball came loose. And more tensions flare as they are calling a safety. They call it a sack. He wasn't put right down, but he was wrapped up. Joe Fleming, 2 more points on the board for Winnipeg.
Joe Fleming's going to get home. Jay Barker really has nowhere to throw the football because downfield, Reggie Carthon, who, by the way, would never not play. If he was hurt, he was hurt, was covering up the receivers, and Daryl Mitchell again. Barker had nowhere to go, and down he goes.
And Jay Barker getting a taste at what Kerwin Bell has had to go through much of this game. Looking at Joe Fleming, 3rd in the CFL in sacks. What a great year he has had, former BC Lion.
He's had a great season, and when I talked to him, I said, I guess you're in some ways relieved that it's all over. And he said, you know what, surprisingly, I'm really disappointed that it's coming to an end tonight. He said, you know, I'd love to play 4 or 5 more games. Obviously, they want to be in the playoffs, but he's not ready to stop playing football. And a lot of teams in the NFL have talked to him, but he said he wants to come back to Winnipeg because he simply said he wants to win here. He said the fans are so dedicated here in Winnipeg. I would love to see how they would react if we could come up with a winning season for him.
Well, last season, his year came to an end in the playoffs. He got 1 more game out of the deal with BC, losing to the Montreal Alouettes at Molson Stadium, which is destination for his opponent tonight, the Toronto Argonauts. Based on the way it's gone tonight, maybe it's the Alouettes looking forward to the Argos coming to town. On the reverse, on the return, Eric Blunt with the ball over about the 35-yard line. Adrian Smith escorts him out of bounds. But Joe Fleming, one of the nominees as top defensive player in the Canadian Football League in 1998.
You know, it's interesting when you look at that list. Alondra Johnson, who has finally got out of the shadow of Willie Pless. Willie Pless obviously not on that list for the Edmonton Eskimos. Malvin Hunter gets the nod there. But Alondra Johnson finally gets out of the shadow of Willie Pless, and he's going to be up against likely Joe Mumford out of the East.
And that's pretty tough.
That's tough competition.
Joe Fleming having a great year as well, and Grant Carter. But yeah, the sacks leader Montford with 21 heading into this final week. That will be tough competition for Alondra Johnson. Should he represent the West? Outstanding defensive player. Eric Blunt still on his feet across midfield and finally written out of bounds. Close to the 50-yard line. Argos. Eric Blunt having an outstanding game tonight.
Now, and I'm by no means ruling out those other nominees, just for the record.
Absolutely.
Because they're all watching, I'm sure. But, hey, talk about a nominee. Eric Blunt, the nominee for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and he has done this all season. Kickoff returns, punt returns, a little bit out of the backfield, but Eric Blunt has made a statement this year that his career is far from over.
Has he ever? A real bright spot in a team that has not had many this year. Eric Blunt with the football again. Being chased in behind. Lost yardage this time for Winnipeg.
Well, this game is always won and lost in the trenches, and there's outstanding offensive lineman nominees this year in the CFL. I would think out of the West, Big Fred Childress has to be a front runner. Mo Elwanibi had a good second half.
And he has a touchdown.
And
Does that count?
And he has a touchdown. And then in the East, I mean, talk about Carl Coulter's done a nice job in Hamilton. And when you think about what Mike Pringle's done, it's hard to not consider someone from the O-line, the Montreal Alouettes, Zumo KK.
KK back in the Baltimore days when Pringle was racking up the yardage there when Don Matthews was coaching them. And you did notice one of the nominees for Toronto, Willie Williams, and not to make excuses for the Argos tonight because they've had a number of holes to fill, but Willie Williams absent from this game and will be back for the playoff game. As far as the rookies go, looking at Jermaine Haley, the Argo representative.
Mitch Running from Winnipeg. Baron Miles had a real nice season with the Montreal Alouettes. Mario Smith, of course, the second safety for Saskatchewan Roughriders. But this one, and I'm going to go way out on a limb here, like, a foot on the limb. Steve Mohammed wins this one.
Steve Mohammed, from start to finish, an outstanding year, 10 interceptions. And, you know, he'd have more competition if Mitch Running had played a full season, or Mario Smith.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mitch Running has looked great here in Winnipeg, but just coming in after the midway point of the year. Timeout called by Bob Cameron. A little confusion there for the Bombers. Bob Cameron, the nominee from the Blue Bombers for Outstanding Canadian. Another award to be handed out in Grey Cup week.
Dave Chaders, a great season with the BC Lions, along with Johnny Scott, who is also a nominee. But Mike Morreale has had an outstanding year, and one of my highlight plays this year,
speaking of Mario Smith,
was, yeah, absolutely, when Mike Morreale against Saskatchewan on 2nd and 21 in the game-winning drive catches a 22-yard post pattern, gets hit by Mario Smith, and hangs onto the football. One of my favorite plays this season.
And the Morreale, it's all just hearsay. I don't think he knew about it until he got to see it on a replay maybe a few days later. Still waiting to get this punt off after Bob Cameron called time, and now they're still not ready to get it done.
27, still 3rd down.
After a procedure call going against the Blue Bombers.
You know, when we looked at that Canadian list, too, another guy that's really had a good season quietly is Kelly Wiltshire. I mean, Kelly Wiltshire has had a real solid season. He leads the Argos in tackles, and he plays beside Michael O'Shea. Kelly Wiltshire is a player.
Finally, they get this punt away. Cameron from the 45, Winnipeg. And on the hop, Lester Smith. Still going. Lester Smith finds some open ground to midfield and beyond. Lester Smith takes it all the way back to the Winnipeg 46. And Cameron had kicked it from his 40. This is Friday Night Football on TSN. The championship game in the CFL. Grey Cup week 3 weeks away. If you need a ticket, 1-888-473-9287. Some counting on the Hamilton Tiger Cats being here.
And the Grey Cup is right here.
Out of the shotgun, Jay Barker. And completes the pass. A completion for Barker. And that's Andrew English on that one. Yeah, Glenn Suter will be here in Winnipeg for the Grey Cup. So too will the gentlemen back in our control studio, James Duthie, Eric Tillman, and Chris Schultz, who join us now. Hi, guys.
Hey, Rod, how are you?
What's your impression of this one so far? I know you've been voicing it at quarter time and at the half as well, but not looking too good for Mr. Schultz's former team, the Argonauts.
No, not really, and I think you have to look at it on what their goals were at the beginning of the game, and it really was to try to get some continuity in the running game, to try to get Nigel Williams back in the offense, get him some confidence in terms of catching the football, maybe to get Daryl Mitchell in space and get him a big play, and they really haven't accomplished any. But I'll tell you what, I do agree with Glenn. Matthews will do a good job preparing this team. It'll come down to 1 or 2 big plays in the Montreal game at Montreal. If they can run defend, they still have a shot in that game. Whatever happens this week does not necessarily influence what happens in the playoff week that much. A little bit, but not a hell of a lot.
Well, I know you guys were talking about getting the confidence for Kerwin Bell, and now Jay Barker in and running for that first down, but certainly didn't work out for Bell at all tonight.
It's just really been a tough night for the whole Toronto offense. As Chris said, they wanted to come in and try to establish the run. They want to get momentum for the playoffs, and they've really done neither. I mean, this is a team that offensively has been in total disarray for the last few weeks, and defensively they've given up now almost 120 points in the last 3 quarters. Are they good enough to still win the Grey Cup? There's no question about the athletes, but this team right now I think has really lost its focus and its direction. It's going to be a real challenge for them to get it back in the road.
Now, Eric, I have a question. Now, let's just take a hypothetical here. Hypothetically, Eric Tillman is the new GM.
Here we go, Eric.
Of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I mean, what have you seen from that side of the field as far as guys that may be here next year?
Well, Glenn, I think the most important thing we've all seen tonight is that this football team has character. You know, with their record this year going into week 18, they could have just shown up tonight and gone through the emotions, but they played hard, and that says a lot about them. And I think it says a lot about Gary Hoffman and this coaching staff. This game was important to them. They've come out and they've responded, and they've really taken it to the Argonauts tonight.
And this is more bad news for Toronto. Nigel Williams still down on the field after that last catch. He got hit by Maurice Kelly. And Jay Barker, backup quarterback, was also limping after the play. Now he seems to be okay. He's sort of limping around trying to shake it off. But Don Matthews can ill afford to lose Nigel Williams or his backup quarterback even heading into the playoffs.
Chris, the last time the Argos won a game 3 weeks ago, it happened to be at Molson Stadium, beating the Alouettes. I mean, if they're searching for anything to give them some confidence going back there, could that be it?
Well, I think so. I mean, sometimes when you do have success at one particular home, you get a good feeling going back in there. But it really depends in the playoffs up to the players in a couple areas. Number one, how mentally prepared are they? Have they watched the extra film? Do they know the details of the game? And then the state of mind going into the first quarter. And that's why I like the Argonauts' chances, because if they can play well in that first-round playoff game in the first quarter, they'll have a great shot. Remember, they don't have Willie Williams, and they don't have Michael Clements. Michael Clements offers such a huge amount of flexibility on that offensive system, and his ability in second effort to get that critical first down can't be underestimated. I give him a shot. Now, will they win? Hey, we got to talk to Dave Ritchie and all those Montreal Alouette players, because they'll be ready to go.
And what about the defensive side of the ball, Eric? I mean, they're going to face Mike Pringle in the first round of the playoffs. He is on a roll, obviously, and they haven't done a very good job tonight stopping Eric Blunt against the run.
Well, you know, they've made a little deviation tonight playing Glenn Young, but basically they played 7 DBs all year, Glenn, as you know, and they've not been able to stop the run. Last time they played both Hamilton and in Montreal, it basically was big guy on big guy up front. They got Pringle and Williams isolated on those linebackers, and they couldn't stop them. You know, Don Matthews has a real coaching challenge right now, and he's going to have to go to the drawing board and I think review some of the things they're doing defensively. As I said earlier, you give up 120 points in 3 games, you've got some problems.
First and goal, Argonauts. Down around the 7-yard line. Barker still in and working out of the shotgun. Into the end zone. Touchdown. Andre Batson, product of York University. That's his 2nd catch of the year, and the other catch was in BC for a touchdown way back in July the 15th.
Not a bad average. 2 catches, 2 touchdowns. A good read and a good throw by Jay Barker. He had to shake off an injury from the previous play. A little half roll to his left, and then throws a strike in between Brad Elberg, and I believe it's Nick Ferguson over there as well. And Batson comes up with the touchdown, but see how Elberg slipped a little bit trying to break on it too.
You can get a lot of receivers that catch a lot of footballs and never get into the end zone, and this guy's caught 2 in his CFL career, and both of them for majors.
He's laughing about it on the sideline. I'm 2 for 2.
And Eric Pigos, who had a rough night in the field goal department, does punch this one through. So finally a touchdown for the Toronto Argonauts, but still down big time, 31-12.
Eric Pigos just needs some broom ball shoes. He'd have been okay early in the game if he had the broom ball shoes. If he made a mental note, because likely be cold in Montreal. That's artificial turf at Molson Stadium. Could get slick.
It's a 3rd-place team, and as we showed you earlier, the numbers don't favor 3rd-place teams, especially for the Argos. They've never finished 3rd and gone on to play in the Grey Cup, but teams have. The Saskatchewan Roughriders in 1989, a team you played for, finished 3rd, had to go on the road and pull off the upsets, and ultimately won the Grey Cup over Hamilton. And then Saskatchewan again last year. Didn't win the big one against Matthews and the Argos, but did get there to the surprise of many because of the way they played in their last game of the regular season here in Winnipeg.
Yeah, you don't become the all-time winningest coach in CFL history unless you know how to game plan, and that man will be ready for the first round of the playoffs and have his team ready.
So Bigos with the kickoff and Blunt with the football. Eric Blunt had a great night in all departments. Catching, running, and returning, gets it up to the Winnipeg 50. He was far and away the combined yardage leader coming into this game, way ahead of Mike Pringle. 34.98 is total, just shy of 3,500 yards. 296 combined yards tonight. Wow.
And he just passed Mike Clements, who set the all-purpose record last year. He needs
73 yards. Actually, even less than that now as he continued to rack him up on the return. But remarkable production for Eric Blunt tonight. 46 yards, I'm told now, that Blunt needs, as he is tackled, though, in behind, so lost yardage. So it's going to fluctuate.
So that's not good for the total.
No, that puts it back up again. But Pinball Clements, who broke his own record that he set back in 1990 and doing again last year, as we just showed you. And what a remarkable night for Eric Blunt.
Well, what they need to do, if they want to get him the record, put him out at the wideout or something and just have him run deep. Hopefully he catches a deep one for you, because all-purpose yards doesn't matter where you get it. Return game, handoffs.
3 minutes to go in this fourth quarter. Jay Walker off on the sideline. Winnipeg with the football and a big lead. Back in Winnipeg, it's our final telecast, ending the CFL season here in Winnipeg, where it ultimately will come to an end. But just like to take the time to thank a lot of people who have made this possible, and I know you feel the same way, and a great job that you have done being involved with just about every telecast we had this year.
Well, it's been a lot of fun, but we should thank a lot of people like you mentioned, Rod. Today, working the game, John Hines is our producer. Paul Hemming is the director. Paul McLean also produces a lot of the games.
Rick Chisholm, our supervising producer, and a lot of talented people that you don't see to make all this possible.
Absolutely. And our stats guys, Dave Moyer and George Cootie, do a great job of providing us with statistics. And there's a ton of technical people and cameramen, and those are the guys who are out there in the pouring rain sometimes getting the good shots. There's a lot of people involved, and I think, you know, what a lot of people don't realize is all the time and effort that goes into a telecast like this. I'm still amazed. This is my 4th year in the business, and I am still amazed at how much time goes into it. And I think what I enjoy most about it is that everyone in our crew, to a person, loves the CFL. So
Absolutely.
It's always great to show up to work, and everyone wants to do the little extra to make it, you know, the game look great and be presented professionally. So thanks to a whole lot of people that make it happen.
And to you in the studio as well, you guys, a great job.
Yeah, they did a very nice job in the studio all year.
Lester Smith in the punt return, and is not going anywhere. Wrapped up, taken down. Clock showing 2:38.
Of course, I got it. You as well, Rod, John Wells, and of course Gord Miller, who early in the year did a lot of the play-by-play as well. And it's always fun working with you guys. We have as much fun off camera, I think, as we do on camera. It's a great experience.
Absolutely. You had one stretch where you worked with 3 different play-by-play guys. Gord one night, then me the next, and then John the next, and you never got our names wrong or anything. So kudos to you.
And of course Leif Pedersen, who did a lot of the games early in the year.
Absolutely.
Hey, come on!
The season of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers is winding down, but like they did last year, they're going out in style. 2:37 to go. Another penalty called on Jay Barker, that penalty that time.
When you think of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, all you have to really compare it to is the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Last year, 2-16. This year, front runners to win it all. The differences: Ron Lancaster, Darren Flutie, Danny McManus. Other than that, it is basically the same football team.
You know, that's interesting, because Hamilton had a good defensive core. Players like Orlando Steinhauer and also, of course, Joe Montford this year, and Eric Carter. And you look at Winnipeg's defense, and they have an impressive unit as well, I think. A few changes, I think they could be one of the strongest defenses in the CFL.